How do we know when we are live? We are live. Oh, we are. Gonna be fun.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Today, we're really excited to be here today. Just checking that we're live and that you are all here. Yes, absolutely. Okay. My name is Trizah Gakwa, and I am the program manager at Be That Girl Foundation. I am very excited to welcome you to today's conversation. Be That Girl is a private foundation that works with local NGOs to empower women and girls to live self-determined lives. And this is the second episode of Be That Girl's Global Voices of Change interview series. An interview series that is predicated on the understanding that the fight for women and girls empowerment is not an isolated one. It is a global movement that requires collaboration, shared knowledge, and bold leadership. And so we host these conversations with amazing leaders to spark new ideas, learn from each other, and just really strengthen our efforts for women and girls empowerment. This is the second episode. I had the privilege of having a conversation with Mudhoni Gakwa in the month of May. If you didn't catch that, please look for the recording on our page. And today I have the absolute honor of hosting my friend and lead extraordinaire, Grace. And Grace, welcome. I want to invite you to introduce yourself before I get started.
Thank you so much, Trizah. It is an absolute honor to be here today. It's an absolute honor to talk to you as well. I think we've had a journey, we've had experiences in the work that we're doing, and I'm just so happy to be here to be talking about my experience and my even challenges, really challenges and life and impact with you. And I'm just so happy for Voices of Change and happy for Be That Girl for featuring me.
Thank you so much, Grace. I'm excited for everybody that they get to learn from you and, just from your bold leadership, bold and authentic leadership. And it's an honor to know you as a friend and as a colleague in this work. I just want to mention that Grace and I will have a conversation. We invite you to connect with us in the chat, share your thoughts, your comments, your questions. We hope to get to your questions at the end of this conversation, and we will do our best to respond to them. So please engage with us. Let us know what is resonating with you as Grace and I talk. Right. So I want to get right into it, Grace, and I want to start by inviting you to share what moments in your journey inspired you to be an educator and to finally start a community-based organization for women empowerment in Western Kenya.
Thank you so much, Trizah. I grew up in Asembo, just like Asembo Skills. We will get to learn why Asembo. But I grew up in Asembo. It's a small fishing town in the shores of Lake Victoria in the western part of Kenya. Yeah. And growing up, I witnessed firsthand challenges many girls and women faced. These early marriages, these early pregnancies, gender-based violence, the harsh reality of HIV and AIDS. Most of my personal female friends dropped out of school and became like really young mothers with little to no support. I made a quiet promise to myself. I said, I want to get back out of this town and make something of myself. I would leave that small town, and I did carve a different path. I went to college. I did bachelor's in education, and I later moved to Rwanda. While my family could afford the basics, I always felt the need to shape my own journey.
Yeah.
And so, but every summer I could always come back home and I could visit my family, but I could also get the chance to connect with my friends who are now young mothers. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized how they were still stuck. Little had really changed into their lives. Many
Yeah.
of my friends, they stayed in the cycle of dependence. They did not
Yeah.
have the skills, they did not have the income, and they often experienced violence to a point where the violence had become normalized. It was rarely questioned. And so that's when I realized that something needed to change. No, these women didn't just lack jobs, they lacked the opportunity, they lacked agency, they lacked a future for themselves beyond just being wives and mothers.
Mm-hmm.
So that realization inspired me to start Asembo Skills for Hope. It's a community-based organization. We have designed it to provide women with practical skills, economic independence, and a renewed sense of self-worth. So
Yeah.
we exist to open doors so that women in my hometown can not only learn to live, but become role models for their children. We are breaking that cycle of poverty. We are reclaiming their power and their choice. My journey began with witnessing the pain that they were going through, but today we are continuing to create purpose and possibility.
Yeah, wow, that's a powerful story, Grace. And what I love is how you were so clear and determined to get out of that place. But when every time you came back, you saw, how connected your purpose was to, your home, and that you
Yeah.
chose to come back and make a difference. That's very bold. And maybe you can share with us a little bit about how your experience as an educator, both in Kenya and Rwanda, prepared you for this work that you do today.
Um, like I will talk about later. I think everything that I do today as a leader is because of a decade plus experience of teaching in both Kenya and Rwanda. It shaped everything that I am today. First of all, working away from home is not something very
Mhm.
easy. And you have to adapt very quickly. You have to blend
Yeah.
in, you have to build relationships, you have to stay very open to learn, but also
Mhm.
to unlearn some things. There are some things that are very happening in Kenya very easily, and you go to Rwanda and people are not so open to that. You have to learn and to be able to unlearn some things. Over
Yeah.
the years, I stepped into the leadership role, and that's how I learned that I lead with empathy.
Mhm.
I helped create systems that support impact and how to work within diverse teams. Teaching
Mhm.
also revealed something very deeper. I am a problem solver. So whether it was helping a student who is struggling to stay in school or navigating institutional gaps, I learned to
Yeah.
find practical, people-centered solutions. So those are the
Yeah.
same skills that I think I've really relied on when it comes to running Asembo Skills.
Yeah, which is interesting because when people think about education and educators, they just think about the classroom. And we don't think about all of the other leadership experience that we are gaining from that process. And personally, I just think dealing with children in any capacity, even as a parent, will prepare you to some extent for the world. So that's really exciting to hear. And in your career as an educator, I know that you had a lot of experience developing curriculum, both for the students and now for the women in Asembo Skills for Hope. And I'm curious about when you realized that these skills could, have social impact and even bring economic change.
Yeah, I first taught in a rural school. Actually, I first taught in Kenya for 2 years, and then I moved to
Yeah.
Rwanda and I taught in a very rural school. Then later on, moved to the best international schools in Kigali. The
Okay.
difference is striking. In local schools, and mostly in Kenya before um, the current curriculum, learning
Mm-hmm.
is focused in passing exams. It's like
Yes.
how much can you train, can you um, retain the information so that when you get the exam paper you pour it all in and then you forget about it and you go to the next exam. But when it comes to high level education or high level schooling,
Yeah.
it's about building skills. We are building critical
Mm-hmm.
thinking. We are social. we're building social skills, we are building communication skills, we are doing research, we are finding the problems in the community and how can we have practical solutions. That contrast made me reflect on education back at home, especially for adults who already missed the formal education.
Yeah.
So I realized that creating a curriculum or curriculum design could be a tool for broader economic and social change,
Yeah.
not just by passing knowledge, but by equipping people with practical, adaptable skills that meet the real world needs. So
Yeah.
at Asembo, we design training that prepares women not only to just work, but to lead, to innovate, to adapt to technology, and to take charge of their own futures. I always believe that the curriculum that we design
Yeah.
should help the women transform the skills they have learned into some income. The goal, the main idea why we are learning these skills is to for them to earn income. How can
Yeah.
we easily transform what we have learned into income? So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you and I, Grace, are products of the 844 system. And there are all these running jokes about, okay, fine, I crammed mole concept in chemistry.
Mhm.
It's triggering to even say the term.
I
And
know you said more.
yeah,
You
I
said
mean, I
more
crammed it,
concept. I'm like, no, not
more
today.
concept, and I passed it. But like here I am in the real world, and all the skills I need, like perhaps I needed to know how to save money or how to file my tax returns for Kenyans right
Absolutely.
now. So I really love what you're saying, that your experience helped you understand that there are more critical things that need to be built, critical thinking, social skills, all of that. And I appreciate that so much. And I'm curious about how your upbringing or your personal values really strengthened your commitment to work with women and to support them to be economically independent.
Hmm. I mean, I grew up in Asembo, and the
Yeah.
impact of economic dependence on women, whether it was in terms of early marriage, lack of choices, daily struggles to support with their families. My mother
Mm-hmm.
was a very strong influence. I was raised by my stepmom, and
Yeah.
one time I was teaching my students, and we had this story of Cinderella, and they all went around how, oh, stepmothers are mean, stepmothers are mean, you know, because that's the story that's out there. And I know there
Yeah.
are stepmothers who are mean, but I
Yeah.
listened to them and I felt like I was crying, like I felt a tear. And
Mm.
I told them that what I am today is 100% my mom.
Yeah.
She supported the family with grit and every opportunity, and even she helped me build my career. I learned about
Mm.
resilience. I learned about going past your limitation. You can push just a little bit further. My
Yeah.
values are deeply rooted in like justice and equity,
Mm.
and I believe every person, especially women, should have the agency to decide their future.
Yeah.
There's this belief that pushed me to create Asembo Skills for Hope, a space where women can build the skills. They can be
Mm-hmm.
confident. They can be
Mm-hmm.
independent. They can take control of their lives. To me,
Mm-hmm.
economic independence is dignity, it's choice, it's breaking
Yeah.
that cycle of poverty that women can fulfill their own potential.
Yeah.
But when I talk to you about these things, it makes sense. But when you go to a woman in the village, she's like, what are you talking about? How can we
Mm.
make her realize that as much
Mm.
as you are raised in a community that tells you you are weak, you should stay home,
Mm-hmm.
just give birth, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
have to change her mind. She has to see that she's able to do way much more. But you
Yeah.
also have to make the community realize that, oh, she can do way much more. And how can we support her to do much more?
Mm.
So
Mm.
it is bringing everyone together. It's not a journey
Yeah.
for one person. And just
Yeah.
everyone should realize that how are we working towards,
Yeah.
providing
Yeah.
that space for everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's powerful that you had a mother that was strong and pushed you. And I love what you're saying, that you're an exception to the rule, that in your community most women don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like starting from the core of self-belief, and then community shifting cultural mindsets in the community for them to begin to believe that actually the empowerment of these women is the empowerment of the community. And
Mm-hmm.
on that note, I'm curious to hear how your experience, for example, teaching in Rwanda, you taught in very big schools like Green Hills Academy.
Yeah.
What were the lessons you learned there about education, community engagement, but also cultural sensitivity? You hinted earlier that it was a very different experience. What were the lessons you learned there, and how have they been relevant to your work?
Okay. You will let me know if there's noise in the background. We are having guests. So, hi guys. I'm on an
No,
interview. All right. Okay. Good.
it's okay, no noise.
All right. So, thank you, Trizah. I feel like, first of all, when I want to talk about this, teaching in Rwanda, especially Greenlands and these schools, it taught me the importance of community engagement. I
Yeah,
learned that education goes beyond the classroom. It thrives when schools are connected to families and the broader community. You cannot talk about Rwanda without mentioning, you know, the dark, inhuman time of genocide that this country went through. This is a country that has seen the worst when it comes
yeah,
to, people losing people very close to their families. But they have accepted fate. They have gone through forgiveness. They're now working through reconciliation and are looking at the brighter side. Rwanda's history shaped how people approached education and trust, and
mm-hmm.
understanding this allowed me to build like better relationships with them. But when I take a step back and look into where we are today in Kenya, I can also see how the education, which has really changed in some way, we see the youth who are now taking charge. They're being
Yeah,
interested in what the leadership is doing. They're being interested in choices. There's so many youths that were saying, I don't care if whoever takes it, I'm not going to vote. And now
mm-hmm.
saying, I am now you going to use my power. I'm going to use my right to make a better decision for this
Yeah,
country.
yeah,
And so we are custodians of future generations. We
mm-hmm.
can clearly see what is happening in Kenya right now. We are
Mm-hmm.
able to tell where we want this country to be in. And so ultimately, I learned that education is not just knowledge,
Yeah.
it's about developing critical thinking, it's about confidence, it's about leadership. These values are central to the work also that we do at Asembo Skills, where we empower women to not only learn new skills, but also to reclaim their voice and their agency.
Yeah, absolutely. I that's interesting that you make that observation, because I hadn't thought about it. The implication of education in the current state of our country. And even if somebody doesn't get up, for example, and go to the streets, nobody can hide. Uh, this is our reality right now. This is our reality, and we have to acknowledge it. And I love what you're saying, that everybody right now is being called to leadership. And so, no matter what work you're doing, you have to prepare people for leadership.
Mhm.
Right. So these women that you're working with, Grace, I imagine they are juggling multiple responsibilities in their families, in their lives, in their communities. How do you design programs? How do you design curricula or an approach that actually honors this reality?
Yeah. One thing is recognizing that.
Yeah.
One, recognizing that the mothers that we're dealing with are juggling childcare, household responsibilities, and sometimes informal work. So we break
Mm,
our context into a manageable module, teaching in the local language,
mhm.
emphasizing hands-on learning, and
Mhm.
reducing barriers. We offer like on-site daycare, emotional well-being support, counseling, because one, we have to recognize where they're coming from before
Yeah.
we recognize the transition.
Yeah.
So one, I saw firsthand how in rural education learning is different from a well-resourced urban school. That
Mm-hmm.
experience shaped my belief that learning should be context driven and
Mm-hmm.
learning should be effective,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with other underdeserved communities. It must be practical, it must be relevant, and it must be immediately applicable. Because other than that, you've taught me this, what am I going to do with it?
And you have
So,
taken
how
my time, taken me away from my everything for something that is not benefiting me immediately. Yeah.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
how am I going to, how do we train them to easily transform into income, transform it into decent income?
Yeah.
So we apply the same principle. We design curriculum based on skills that
Mm-hmm.
women can use right away to earn income, to change their lives, like
Mm-hmm.
tailoring. We are now adding construction,
Mm-hmm.
financial literacy, because if you
Mm-hmm.
just give them the skill, but they don't know how to run their businesses,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, you also
Yeah.
have to help with that. But we
Yeah.
also go beyond the technical training by
Mm-hmm.
integrating life skills. So we bring confidence building, we bring family planning, we bring parenting, sexual
Mm-hmm.
reproductive health, because we know self-belief is just as important as
Mm-hmm.
the technical skills that they are also learning. So
Yeah.
building an environment that meets the women where they are
Mm-hmm.
and works with them towards that independence. So each session is designed to feel like a step forward, not like a
Yeah.
burden. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we even give, not sometimes, but we do give stipends to help
Mm-hmm.
them with like transport, and those who have children that they can afford groceries, because we are taking half of their day.
Yeah.
And that means you've taken half of the day that she would have put into work to get
Yeah.
income. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, Grace, what I appreciate is that you're actually taking half of the day. I think that's something I really appreciate about your model, where you recognize that these women cannot afford to give you an entire day for training. They have to go and earn something for their families, and they have to do some work at home. So structuring your training in such a way that you have a group that comes in the morning and then a group that comes in the afternoon, I have found to be very sensitive and I think contextualized to the needs of who you're serving.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Now, we've talked a lot about Asembo, and I'm really curious to hear what was the turning point for you, or what story really solidified your resolve. I think that's the word I would use, your resolve to focus on
Mhm.
vocational training for women.
I think that's always like, I've talked about Asembo skills a lot, but I rarely talk about this because
Yeah,
it's very private and personal. But I do have the permission of the person to share this.
thank
Um,
you.
one of the turning points for me was watching a family member who is my sister go
Mm-hmm.
through a very violent and emotional, draining marriage. It began with struggling to conceive, and then it
Mm-hmm.
later escalated. She was infected with HIV and AIDS by her husband. And every time she tried to leave, she found herself going back. For someone who was on the outside, I was like, why can't you just leave? But you can
Mm-hmm.
never understand unless you are in this situation.
Yeah,
So she dropped out in class 8, which left her with like very few job opportunities and not a very clear path to financial independence. And going back to high school was also not a realistic option for her. So I asked
mm-hmm.
myself, what kind of skill can you provide to a single mother with
Yeah,
limited formal education that she can learn quickly and she can use to earn a living?
yeah,
So these were like really tough questions, but I was like, but this is the only way I'm going to find a way to help. And
yeah,
that's how we began. We started with basket weaving and tailoring, and then we later added construction and adding construction, which is styling and painting for women.
yeah,
But we
yeah.
also quickly realized that technical skills were not enough. Women also
Mm-hmm.
needed entrepreneurship skills. How do you start a
Mm-hmm.
business? How do you know the
Mm-hmm.
business is viable? Do you have a business plan? How much
Yeah,
do you need to start this business? And if you don't have the
yeah,
money, where are you going to get it?
yeah,
How do you make sure you have the customer base, and how do you build that customer base? And
yeah,
how do you turn the scale into income? But we also realize that well-being support is important to help them heal from the trauma, but also now bring in the positive side, which is building confidence. So my sister's experience reminded me that economic empowerment is more than just a job. It's restoring dignity, it's providing agency, it's providing choice to someone who at some point could have felt like I've run out of options.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, thank you so much, Grace, for sharing that very powerful and personal story with us. This is also something we have been sitting with and continue to sit with as Be That Girl Foundation, where we're trying to explore what other pathways exist outside of formal education for women and girls, because that's what looks like a very easy and clear path: secondary school, tertiary education, job. And for many reasons, just listening to your sister's story, that's like one of the angles. For many reasons, this is not always the easiest pathway. Sometimes it's not accessible, sometimes it's not even practical, like you explained in your sister's situation. And so it's really powerful for us to hear that there are so many other options, and that vocational skills training is a solid option for women and girls that cannot go the formal way. And just from listening to you, I can tell that the training at Asembo Skills for Hope is very comprehensive. And you touched a little bit on the other extra life skills that you provide. I'm curious to hear, how do you really prepare your graduates for post-graduation to make sure that they actually earn an income, and that the income is sustainable?
Okay. So I think I'm just going to start by kind of explaining the programs and how we run them,
Yeah.
and then how that transition looks like. So first of all, we have 3 programs. We have our Skills Academy, which is the training, vocational, and life skills. This happens for 10 months. Here we teach the women practical job skills, like I've said, tailoring, basket weaving, construction, along with business skills and life skills, designed to specifically meet the needs of the community. Now, in parallel with this, we also do the well-being support, which we know that the path to prosperity involves more than just economic obstacles, but helping the women navigate social and emotional challenges, as well as counseling, family planning, confidence building, domestic violence, and reducing those, domestic violence, and teaching them like the positive techniques to resolve problems. This
Yeah.
support continues even after graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they graduate, we lastly offer our postgraduate support program. I think this makes us very unique because
Yeah.
we always say, I believe Be That Girl also believes in the same vision. Women deserve to live a self-determined life. In
Yes.
Asembo Skills, we say skills to prosper. And for us,
Mm-hmm.
prosperity means succeeding, it means flourishing. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to tell what exactly is flourishing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
breaking that cycle of, poverty requires long-term personalized support. So
Yeah.
after graduation, each
Mm-hmm.
woman join a 2-month internship to gain hands-on experience with a
Mm-hmm.
local entrepreneur. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, they now go ahead to either start or join existing businesses. So
Yeah.
our graduate success lead works with them, providing tailored mentorship, business coaching, access to
Mm-hmm.
microloans to jumpstart their ideas. We also
Mm-hmm.
have an alumni network and saving
Mm-hmm.
groups where women can support other women, grow their
Yeah.
businesses collectively, stay connected. It's about building, that connection. It's not just
Yeah.
skills, it's
Yeah.
sustainable independence. So
Yeah.
in a nutshell, everyone who joins our program, you have 1 year in our technical training school.
Mm-hmm.
Then we continue to work with you for 2 more years. So everyone has 3 years with us. And
Yeah.
then after the third
Wow.
year, we'll be able to transition you out, because we are able to just, if we work with you for 3 years, at that point we believe you can be able to continue, but you still remain in the alumni network program,
Yeah.
which through there also we still continue to support you.
Wow. Wow. That is absolutely powerful. I love that, you know, the focus is really on these women attaining self-determination. And when you talk about training for women, vocational training specifically, I like that you said you're adding courses like construction, and I wonder what you would say to organizations like Asembo Skills for Hope or even TVET organizations. How can they ensure that they keep up with the ever evolving market needs as they train women, so that these women also have skills that are relevant and can generate income?
That is really good. I feel like the TVETs and the government should
Yes.
understand the market and the community, because whoever we are training is going into the market, they're going into the community. For
Mm-hmm.
us, we maintain strong relationship with local employers. We regularly view their job trends. We involve alumni who tell us what's really going on in the market out there, what are people
Yeah.
looking for, so that we train the needed skill. When I
Yeah.
went to Berlin last year, I had this conversation with technical training colleges where they do it in reverse from us. So
Mm-hmm.
if I finish high school and I want to be a plumber, I
Mm-hmm.
would go to someone who's already offering, who has a job. He has a
Mm-hmm.
job, and
Mm-hmm.
he is a company that does plumbing. This person connects me to a training center. So it's the letter that I will get from this guy,
Yeah.
the business owner, that I will take to the college for me to get entry. So
Mm.
as I train in the college, I also come and do my attachment already with someone who's already working in the market. And so then you are sure of employment. And
Yeah.
like us, we train you and we leave you to go out there. But I'm
Yeah.
sure what they were training plumbers in 2010 is the same books they're still using to train plumbers in 2025. Our agencies and our government systems are not linked. There's less of listening to trends. There's
Mm.
changes in the community. No one is evolving. We are just using the
Mm-hmm.
book. So
Mm-hmm.
we prioritize flexible modular learning, allowing us
Mm-hmm.
to adapt very quickly to opportunities. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the goal is to strengthen vocational education and trainings
Yeah.
through transformative partnership. And this partnership can be with local employers, can be with the government, can be with the
Mm-hmm.
schools, to promote
Mm-hmm.
skills, promote industry linkage that leads to
Mm-hmm.
like very sustainable futures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, I agree with you. And I think then the onus is on us to initiate those conversations, even with the government, and not to just always sit and wait and say, oh, the government isn't doing this. So I'm really grateful to hear that you're proactive in that way.
Mm.
Well, so, being an executive director, founder and executive director is no mean feat. And I'm curious to hear which responsibilities do you think are most critical to achieving your mission?
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Whew. As a leader, you are in the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I always borrow this. They always say, for those, they would tell this about men. They say men
Yeah,
has compactable cubes where they open this and they close and they open this and they close. I think that's
yeah.
leaders. But I feel like as an executive director, I find that strategic planning is the most critical responsibility to achieving our
Mm-hmm.
mission, because it
Mm-hmm.
ensures that every program, every partnership, and every investment is aligned
Yeah.
with our long term vision of
Mm-hmm.
empowering the women of Asembo.
Mm-hmm.
Without a clear, grounded strategy, we
Mm-hmm.
risk just being reactive rather than creating
Yes.
transformative change.
Yeah.
But that said, fundraising and staff oversight are equally
Mm-hmm.
important, pillars
Mm-hmm.
that also support the strategy.
Yeah.
Fundraising allows us the resources to run our programs, to scale our impact. The staff ensures the people are more motivated, they're aligned, they're equipped to
Mm-hmm.
deliver the quality programs on the ground. The
Mm-hmm.
three are aligned, but I feel like strategic planning keeps us focused, keeps us accountable to our mission.
Yeah. So strategic planning, staff oversight, fundraising, and strategic planning underpins everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what's interesting is that I haven't heard of it yet, but I don't think there's a school where you go to learn how to be a founder or executive director. So, how did you learn? And at the same time, how do you continue to foster a culture of innovation and accountability within your organization?
Yeah. Like you said, first of all, I learned by doing. My background in
Yes.
education was like a really strong foundation, but I did know that I didn't have all the tools to run an organization. So first, I
Mm-hmm.
intentionally built a team, which is just my friends that I talk to them about their challenges, their work, and if they are interested in supporting the mission, and they came along. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the turning point for me was joining the Collaborative Learning Initiative, which is a fellowship by ISRO Family Foundation. It came
Mm-hmm.
at a very perfect time because I was transitioning from a full-time job as a teacher to a full-time
Yeah.
role of an executive director. Through that experience, my team and I, because I worked with my team together in this, we
Mm-hmm.
gained practical knowledge in program design, finance, fundraising, human resource, board
Mm-hmm.
development. We were
Mm-hmm.
able to tailor how to tailor what a small organization really looks like and how do you
Yeah.
present that. But
Yeah.
most importantly, we were also able to create our first 3 year strategic plan, which helped us to align and grow. We were able to look into where are we coming from, where are we today, and what is the future looking like for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fellowship was not just a technical skill, it connected me also with like minded leaders across East and Southern Africa, a network.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's how we met, me and you.
Yes. Yeah.
It created opportunities like, staying curious, seeking
Mm.
similar opportunities, and collaborative. But
Yeah.
this is different because now you already have a team. How do you make sure
Mm.
that this team stays? How do you make sure that the team is committed?
Mm-hmm.
Um, One time last year, we always have end of year retreats.
Yeah.
And for the beginning, I just had it so tailored into, work. What have we learned? What was last year like?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing this
Mm-hmm.
year? What is next year like? But this year, I took a step back and I figured if you really don't know your people, how are you going to grow? You have to create, and especially for small organizations like us. So
Yeah.
I took my team on the first day and we just sat in circle and I
Mm-hmm.
shared with them my journey. I shared with them my journey from how I grew up to my first job to my first salary. I shared with
Mm-hmm.
them like moving from Kenya to Rwanda, how I built a career that now I trusted and was grounded. And I
Mm-hmm.
shared with them how one day Asembo Skills was there and now I had to leave that job and come back
Mm-hmm.
to Kenya. And I said, I was scared. I was really
Yeah.
scared. I was like, what if this doesn't work out? What if
Yeah.
I'm making a mistake? You know? And I
Mm-hmm.
asked them, can you please share with us one time that you asked yourself, what if I'm making a mistake? What if this
Mm-hmm.
is not it?
Yeah.
And I swear I learned about my team in ways that I had never
Mm-hmm.
imagined. I had
Mm-hmm.
my whole team sharing how they face gender-based violence while they're the
Mm.
ones who teach gender-based violence.
Oh my
I had my
God.
team talk to me about how one day she left everything and she was going to the river and she was gonna kill herself.
Oh my
And
God.
I had my team member telling me that he was scammed almost all his salary 1 month and he didn't know what to
Mm.
do. And it took
Mm.
me a minute to realize that we are supporting women who are going through issues, but we are
Mm.
also going through issues. And how can
Yeah.
we understand that? And how can we center people? And how
Mm.
can we protect people as well? And how can we tell
Mm.
people that it's okay sometimes to feel the way you're feeling?
Yeah.
So with accountability, we have clear roles, KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
board is deeply committed.
Mm-hmm.
We work based on we are all building Assemble Skills for Hope. We own Assemble Skills
Mm.
for Hope. This is ours.
Mm.
And that shared commitment, it keeps us focused. But
Yeah.
we also do understand that this year we did construction. I was doing construction the first month, 6 months.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
personally, I made some really huge mistakes. And
Mm.
it made me realize that it's so people do make mistakes. And I feel
Yeah.
now I'm extending that grace to my staff,
Yeah.
because it's okay to make mistakes. And it's
Mhm.
okay for us to learn through those mistakes. So
Yeah.
I feel like for me, it's the people, it's it's the growth, it's the learning, it's the journey,
Mm.
and all
Mm.
of that comes together. And that is extended to our funders as well, making sure
Yeah.
that they do understand that sometimes
Yeah.
things are not okay for us. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have a lot to
Wow.
talk about, but
No,
yeah.
yeah, because you're a fantastic leader. That's why you're a fantastic, beautiful human and leader.
Thank
And
you.
I know how difficult this is, a conversation for leaders, because we have grown in a time where leadership is bravado and power and strength and success. But those are not things that inspire trust. Those are not things that build trust. I have also learned, like you, that it's easier for people to trust failure than it is for them to trust success.
Mhm.
That if I come to you, in all honesty, sharing my failure, it's easier for you to trust and connect with me than if I come and all I'm talking about is, oh, I did this, I achieved that. And this is like in life generally, even as a parent, if I
Yeah.
allow my children to see my humanity and how I make mistakes, it's easier for them to feel that they can come to me and trust me when they have challenges. So I think, I really appreciate that, and that conversation about the fact that these people, you're inviting them to support the community, but they need community as well, and that you're building that for them. That is powerful. I want to take
Yeah.
you back a little because I'm trying to look at our time. And there's this question that has been asked about, a conversation we had earlier. And I want us to talk about it before we move forward. It's very impressive to hear that once the women graduate, you connect them to local enterprises for them to do internships, and maybe tell us a little more about how you build these relationships. How do you convince the local private sector to work with these women? Are there any incentives you need to provide? Tell us how that works.
So for us, for example, when we started, what we did was we gave out uniforms to
Ah,
schools. We gave out uniforms to schools for free. We could just
mhm,
come and talk to the schools and ask them who are the students who cannot afford school uniforms, and
mhm,
we are just here to donate some.
mhm,
Then we ran programs, for example, we called in the men when we talk about gender-based violence, and we try to link
mhm,
it with business.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
But also the fact that we are training experts is very
mm,
helpful, because now they end up coming to us. We
mhm.
spent 10 months learning tailoring, while
Yeah.
I can tell you for a fact almost 90% of the companies take, or even institutions, they take
Mhm,
6 months. So
mhm,
providing experts, that's number one. Then we provide the incentive, like free uniforms. And if the community local leaders, or the community local centers do not have a place to buy uniforms, we created a space where we sell materials and we sell accessories for tailoring, so they can always come to us. And then
yeah.
the third thing is, the women that we train are their wives, they are their sisters, they
Mm,
are their siblings. It's we make it a community thing. It's not us
mm,
against you. You're working this towards the same thing. And so
mm.
we go to schools. Now we go to schools to look for contracts, because we have so many women who have graduated. And so we are able to provide bulk, we are able to make bulk uniforms. And so we are more trusted because they know us as Asembo Skills for Hope. We go out and find these contracts, and then the women can work, and then they can be paid. So sometimes they don't go there by themselves. And then
Yeah.
lastly, the head of our graduate success program is one of her roles is also to make that linkage.
Mm.
Yeah. What do they tell us want? And
Mhm.
can we provide what they want?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more about learning and feedback and communication and back and forth, but it's about
Yeah.
building that trust. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it sounds like it's a very important and critical part of your programming with a person dedicated to ensuring that you're building these relationships. Wow, I love that. Yeah, our time is really going, but this conversation is really, I mean, it's absolutely powerful. And earlier on, Grace, we talked about the responsibilities of an executive director as you're leading a local nonprofit organization. And we mentioned fundraising, and I want us to zero in a little more. What fundraising strategies have you found most beneficial in your work with Asembo Skills for Hope? And what specific partnerships have been very powerful, most powerful in supporting women in your community?
Fundraising is a journey, and fundraising takes a lot because then your job is to ask people for money. And so one is I identified organizations that do similar work. And then I was just talking to them about what was your growth like? What are the mistakes? What are the strategies? Because I'm not the first one coming into fundraising. It's easier when you learn it from others because they've already been
Yeah,
there. That's how
yeah.
I met Delphine, who is the founder of our Sisters Opportunity, who later
Mm-hmm.
joined our board, and she introduced me to Gabi, and that's how I joined ISROF, CLI, and it was a turning point for me because it gave me the network that sharpened my story. It taught me how do you tell your story.
Yeah.
But the strategies for me are very simple. Number one is know your why and own it. Know your story. Why are you doing what you're doing? And tell
Mm-hmm.
that story in the best way possible.
Yeah.
If you know your why, that is enough. It is the power, it is what is driving the force. And
Mm-hmm.
so and then after that, I feel like be intentional about where you show up. Show up in rooms where these funders are. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to talk to them. Introduce yourself. Don't be afraid to ask your peers and your current funders to introduce you as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like the third thing is fundraising is mostly about building genuine relationships.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that they say all the time is ask for money and you'll be given advice. Ask for advice and you'll be given money.
So there's
I
even a
grew,
song, a Pitbull song about it.
yeah, oh, I didn't
Yeah, I
know.
will send it to you. Okay.
Oh, that's fun. Because fundraising is about people. It's not just proposals. I feel like because they fund us, who is on the other side of this room, like you, if people are always coming to you just to ask for money, you feel like a cash cow. Like I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you have a strategy of how to dismiss someone when it's just talking about money, money, money. But then if I ask you questions and I want to learn more about your work and I share about our hours and I ask you what strategies do you have, who do you
Yeah.
know, I think it's about communicating very openly and
Mm-hmm.
treating conversations as humans first, and also
Mm-hmm.
realizing that this person has things going on in their lives. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just extending grace and
Mm-hmm.
treating people as people, not like a
Mm-hmm.
bank, that you just
Mm-hmm.
dial in and you get the money. So
Yeah.
I think those are a few things that kind of help me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And there's more to give and there's more to gain from building a relationship than just a financial exchange. So yeah, I like that. And so Grace, let's talk about measuring impact. You're doing such important work. And I'm curious about how you measure the quantitative, outcomes like increase in income and the qualitative outcomes that you have hinted on, like increased self-esteem or self-confidence. How do you measure those, and how scalable do you think this model is?
Some Asembo skills, we go beyond just the outputs, like the number of women that we have trained. We track real change. Our focus is outcomes that matter. For example,
Mhm.
improved income,
Yeah.
employment, savings behavior, and the personal agency. To measure accurately and to measure meaningfully, we conduct like structured in-person participants. We in-person visits. We go to the participants' home and we look
Yeah.
at 4 key intervals before they start the training, 2 months
Mm-hmm.
after they graduate, and
Mm-hmm.
then 1 year follow-up survey and 2-year follow-up survey. So
Yeah.
this approach helps us to understand both immediate progress and long-term impact. And so averagely, we've had most of the women moving from $6 before starting our program to $70 after graduating. And most of
This is
them
a
are
month,
working
eh?
to so when they graduate, they go for their apprenticeship. And then
Yeah.
6 months after that, you can see that it has moved from 40 to 50. And then mostly it stabilizes around 70.
Yeah.
All of them are working towards the goal of $100 per month. We also see
Mm.
that 89% of our graduates are saving, which is with purpose. It's important to
Mm.
save with purpose. You're not just putting money aside.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've also seen like a great reduction, 90% report a reduction in violence, be it physical
Mm.
or
Mm-hmm.
emotional violence. And then
Mm-hmm.
women are now making informed choices. They are able
Yeah.
to access family planning. They are
Mm-hmm.
able to keep their children in school. For us, we want to see
Mm.
100% of the children in school.
Wow.
And then they're now participating more actively in household decisions. For example,
Mm-hmm.
they used to say, I cannot take my child to the hospital unless the father comes back and gives me go ahead. And now
Mm.
they see the importance of taking a child to the hospital. Take the child to the hospital, and
Mm.
then you can talk
Yeah.
about that later. We are saving a
Yeah.
life here. And
Yeah.
so for us, tracking impact isn't just improving the success, it's about
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we actually have that
Mm-hmm.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. I love how, like the generational impact that even children are staying in school. 100% of the children are now staying in school. That is a huge change. Yeah, it's exciting to hear this. And I'm curious, Grace, if you had unlimited resources tomorrow, what would be the next big initiative for Asembo Skills for Hope? And maybe you can conclude that response with how can individuals, corporates, donors, anybody that would want to support this work reach
Yeah.
you?
So with more resources, I think the next
Yeah.
big move for us is establishing our Hope and Hearts. It's a social enterprise. We talk about
Mhm.
sustainability all the time. It will create immediate employment for our graduates through
Yeah.
bulk clothing production, school
Mhm.
uniforms, and other textile, which would allow them to earn while strengthening our financial sustainability. And then the
Mhm.
next is completing our campus, which we are now
Yeah.
doing. We're building our first skills academy. This would
Mhm.
be able allow us to not only meet 30 women per year, but we'll be able to meet 80 women per year. And we'll
Mm.
also be able to add in the full construction skills.
Yeah.
So it would
Yeah.
help us to scale the number of the women we meet, but it would
Mhm.
also help us scale the skills that you're providing.
Yeah.
And lastly, I would invest in our graduate success program,
Mhm.
scaling up microloans, being able
Mm.
to provide women with the finances they need to be able
Mhm.
to start and run existing businesses,
Mhm.
incorporating digital literacy to help the women thrive. So I think
Mm.
those would be the three main ways.
Mm.
If you want to learn about us, I call on to people like you can invest in our programs, whether you are supporting the construction or funding the training or fueling
Mhm.
the graduate program. Going beyond financial support is also welcomed. You can
Mhm.
amplify our work, you can make introduction, you can make recommendation to our network,
Yeah.
and we can
Yeah.
explore collaborative opportunities. At the
Yeah.
moment, our budget is 200,000 US dollars per year,
Mhm.
and that is
Mhm.
mainly because construction is taking a huge part of it. But our
Mhm.
program in itself is running at 100,000 US dollar per year, and the other 100 goes into our construction.
Yeah, that is crystal clear. I personally, it's clear how somebody can engage. And so I just want to invite you, if you're on this call and you would want to invest in these women, in this community, as you've had, any investment would have such serious ripple effect, reaching their children, the entire community. these opportunities exist. You can reach out to Grace. I think, Luca, you can share Grace's email. Grace, can we share your email?
Yeah, my work
Thank you.
email, Grace at
Yes,
Asembo.
work email. That's what we have. You can share. Luca, you can share Grace's work email. Feel free to reach out, and you can also reach out to Be That Girl directly, and we would be happy to make this connection. We have 6 minutes, Grace, and I want us to make the most of these minutes. Many people aspire to start an organization or to make a difference in their community. And it is not an easy transition. Making the choice to stop being an educator, to move from your well-paying job in Rwanda and come and work with the women in the community is not an easy decision. What is one thing you would say if, this is the one way to shift your mindset or to prepare yourself to do this?
I think one is realizing or listening to the people around you, because then you can truly understand what they need.
Yeah.
And then from there, designing or like a way that you can start small and being able to open to learning and trusting the growth. If you
Yeah.
know what the community needs, then you just figure out, how do I get this going? Just
Yeah.
stay connected, community centered. It's the one thing, one step at a time, it makes a difference. But also know that you're not alone in this. Finding the people around you that is already doing it is easier for you to just feel like you have a community.
Yeah. Okay. Keep your ear on the ground, listen to the community, and then find your community that is already doing this, and
Yeah.
take a step at a time. Thank you. That sounds like very solid advice. Now, listening to you, Grace, this is a really busy, this is a busy life. You're doing a lot. You're overseeing construction. I have such mad respect because I figure you now know BOQs,
I do.
things that if I looked at, I'd be like, what on earth? How
Yeah.
do you prioritize your well-being? How do you take care of Grace?
That's a day-to-day thing to learn. When I
Yeah.
started, I thought because I'm the executive director, it means I can take breaks whenever I want. The truth is, it's harder to
Yeah.
step away. You're working every day, every time. So just being intentional to prioritize your time and your days
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Not taking rejection very personally. When a grant doesn't come through, I just say you win some, you lose some. It's easier said than done, but practicing that. And then, most importantly, separating you as the executive director to you as a human being. Because I realized whenever anyone asks me, Grace, how are you? I'm fine. Asembo skills. Like, who is Grace without Asembo skills? I actually don't know what that is, but I'm trying to figure that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the first step, is that
Mm.
you're trying to figure it out. And you know what? I agree with you. This is a journey that we are all on. And when you're passionate about what you do, which is such a beautiful thing, you're also at risk of, not having that clear separation. And so you have to be very intentional. So from where I sit, Grace, I must say that I think you're doing a good job, just
Thank
from what I'm
you.
seeing. So, yeah. So finally, is there a final message that you have for anybody that wants to, be part of this work, this movement of equipping women and empowering them to live self-determined lives?
I have 1,000 things that I'm thinking about, but I'm going to say the reality is that education in Kenya is far from free. And so not everyone is able to go through secondary to university to getting jobs. And without the access to that,
Yeah.
countless young people, especially girls, grow up without the skills and the confidence they need to shape their future. That being said, women even have like steeper, like greater barriers. That there's a lot of things that are deeply rooted into patriarchy and norms that
Yeah.
bring them or refuse to give them like equal access to education, force them into early marriages, and silence their beliefs
Yeah.
that they are able to do more.
Yeah.
But everything changes when you give the women access to skills and practical, empowering education. They begin to think beyond survival. They take ownership. They uplift their lives. they're not just changing their lives, their husbands, their spouses, their children. They're becoming powerful agents of change in the community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
empowering a woman is not an act of charity. It's a bold investment in generational transformation. And so at
Mm-hmm.
Asembo Skills for Hope, we are building that future by transforming and improving a woman's life one time, one cohort at a time, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. Powerful, powerful, powerful. You've had it from Grace. I couldn't say it better. Thank you so much, Grace, for making time and for sharing your insights. We are deeply inspired. Thank you, everybody. Brian, Eric, I see you all. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Yeah, really grateful. We look forward to the next one, and we will be sharing the recording for those that didn't manage to attend. Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you and to wish you all an amazing rest of your day or evening. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you. Bye,
All right,
everyone.
everyone.